Zico maakt.
To answer your question directly, I don't think it will succeed in doing this because the debt to GDP ratio is on such an explosive path that even if those targets are met and all those assets are sold at the prescribed price, the result will be minuscule in comparison with the volume, the great mass of the problem, the debt problem that Greece is facing.
For example, the piece of real estate behind you, what's it worth?
I don't think there is a price tag yet on it, and I hope that we will never live to see the day when such a price tag is going to be attached.
No. Why are you so much against this plan that the EU and IMF and your government has right now?
Because it is a major assault on logic. If somebody, an organization, a nation even, is insolvent, bankrupt, the solution cannot take the form, under any circumstances, of an expensive loan. Especially an expensive loan that comes with strings attached, with policies and measures, effectively what we call austerity, the effect of which is to reduce the national income. If you increase debt and reduce national income, the debt crisis simply gets worse. And you don't have to take my word for this. This is precisely what has been happening over the last year, because let's not forget that this loan is the second loan. The first loan, 110 billion euros worth of it, was given to Greece last May. So imagine if you were a medical doctor and you prescribed a drug that in the end almost killed the patient. And instead of making amends, you recommended an even greater dose of that same drug. I think that in any medical establishment, you would have been stricken off the medical register.
People are not very enthusiastic in Athens about what is going on. The last 10 days there have been demonstrations on the square in front of Parliament. You were speaking to your people yesterday evening. What did you tell them?
I started with what I considered to be an explanation of why we are in these dire straits. The point I tried to make was that this is a European crisis. It's a Eurozone crisis. The Greek state has been profligate, it has been corrupt. Tax evasion is something that is like a sin, like an albatross around all of our necks. But this is not the reason why Greece is in a free fall now. Because if that were the case, if that was the explanation, then it wouldn't explain why Ireland is sitting on the same dock as we are. Why Spain, which even though it has a lower debt ratio, to GDP ratio, a lower deficit than the United Kingdom, finds it much harder to borrow in the money markets. We are unfortunately part of a euro system that was ill-designed to sustain the major financial crisis of 2008. That was the beginning of my talk. And then what I tried to do was to diffuse the anger and the hatred that most Greeks feel toward their politicians, and to try to instill reasonable discontent in their minds.
Which must be difficult, because people are very angry, as we all have seen on the streets in Athens. What is the danger right now of this situation in your country?
Well, the danger is that the discontent is going to give rise to violence. So far it hasn't. The demonstrations in Syntagma Square, at the Constitution Square, the center of Athens, have been very well humored and extremely peaceful and actually delightful in terms of the conduct of demonstrators. But the anger is vivid and it's all-embracing. And it is an anger which is caused by two things. Firstly, by the injustice of it all, because the people who benefited from the loans and the profligacy of the years past are not the ones who are suffering today. They have bank accounts in Switzerland and they are not paying the bill. The people who are paying the bill are the people who, by Eurostat standards, are considered to be amongst the poorest of the poor Europeans. So there is the social justice issue. But then beyond that, beyond the social justice issue, most Greeks, including the middle class, are now making huge sacrifices. Now, you may say that, well, you deserve it. You lived beyond your means and now you have to pay the price. Well, most Greeks would tend to agree with you. The only problem is that the vast majority of Greeks do not believe, they really can't believe, that these sacrifices are like a sort of investment into a better future, that they will help Greece turn the corner. Instead, they think of these sacrifices as sacrifices that are being wasted, thrown into a black hole.
Can you understand that the Dutch here don't want to pay for your debts?
Absolutely. And they shouldn't have to pay for our debt, especially when the Dutch taxpayers' money, as I said just now, ends up in the bankrupted banks, which do not lend it to households and entrepreneurs and businesses. And this is wasted energy. Dutch taxpayers should not have to subsidize bankrupt bankers, because this is what the bailout is. It's not a bailout for Greece, it's a bailout for bankrupt bankers. And I think that the problem in Europe is that both the southern governments and your own governments are losing legitimacy, because the taxpayers of the north see their money being wasted, and the people of the south have idiotic austerity measures being imposed upon them. The result is that the whole of the Eurozone is undergoing an economic and a political legitimacy crisis.
Yanis Varoufakis, thank you very much for your comments from Greece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Varoufakis, hij is het dus eens.